This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, an open source non-ICO crypto project powered by community. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. That's TUSC.network. The Rob McNeely program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Hey folks, Rob McNeely here, and today I am super excited because we are talking to the team from Hydro, the Hydro project. I'm real excited about this. Hydro has been around for a few years now, and they are doing some amazing things with a lot of different technologies in the web space, and they've had a lot of updates recently. And I want to bring the team on to talk a little bit about what they're doing and why you should care about what they're doing. So guys, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you.
Thanks for having us here.
So why don't we just go one by one? Give us a little introduction about you and how you got involved with the Hydro project. So why don't we start with Saurav?
Yeah. Hey guys. So I am elected president of Hydro, and I've been with Hydro from the start. I was a community member in the starting, and in 2019, I guess, I was in the first batch of decentralized ambassadors. And then one thing led to another, and I'm here. I got elected in June, I guess, in June 2020 as a president. And like Hydro is everything for me, to be honest. It's like a baby to me because it born right in front of me, and you know.
That's good. Passion is good. Carl, tell us about you. How'd you get involved with Hydro?
So yeah, I got involved back in the first developer airdrop, actually, scouring the internet, connecting my GitHub, and found out about the protocols, how to use the APIs and so forth, because I was studying front-end development at the moment. So I think it's about 8 months now since we got elected through the community voting after the Hydro Labs left the project, basically. So ever since then, I've been assisting Saurav in the strategizing and development of this project. So most of the things that we have been releasing, I can definitely say I have had my hands on all of that. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Very cool. Welcome. Yushka, tell us about you.
Yeah, hi. I've been with the Project Hydro from past year, and I met Saurav, and that's how I came here. And we then joined hands, and we both tried to solve the technicalities and the things, how things are progressing in Hydro, and that's how I'm here.
So
And recently, I was just in the technical domain of this blockchain world since, I mean, it's been around 2017, I guess, and I've been here from a long time from the blockchain.
That's great. So one of the things I like about Hydro is you guys are a very international project, and you have literally your Hydro, like, fans and Hydro community is like all over the place. But where are you guys particularly based?
I'm based in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Where are you, Saurav?
Yeah, I'm from Lucknow, India.
Same here.
Yeah, I share same city. Yeah, that's how we met.
Saurav, you remind me of like a Bollywood actor. You got that whole style going on that I'm just totally liking about you.
I don't.
You do.
It's just
you do.
my lockdown here. It's my lockdown here.
You are a Bollywood actor. If Hydro doesn't work out, you got to go into like Bollywood for sure.
No, I don't think so.
I got an eye for these things.
I can't really dance. And you know how important it is for Bollywood actors to know how to dance.
And fly.
You're a quick learner, so.
So I guess give us a little synopsis, if you could, for the audience who may be unfamiliar with Hydro. What would you call Hydro? How do you describe what Hydro is?
So Hydro is a set of protocols that you can build smart contracts upon to basically secure the Web3 reality. So our core protocols, Raindrop and Snowflake, are used to secure identities and create identities, sorry. So I would quickly describe it as a way to secure the Web3 reality, and that will I don't know. I don't want to start talking about the multi-chain plans yet, but that will tie into it as well, of course.
Well, very cool. So how are you guys formed? You said you're a president and a vice president. Are you guys a company, corporation? Are you decentralized? How is Hydro governed?
Okay, so we got elected by community. There was a voting back in June, and they elected 6 of us. Carl was there with me. And then there was another voting inside the team as well, because at that point we didn't have enough, you could say, infrastructure to, do that voting inside with the community. So yeah, with that voting, we appointed the president and vice president. Other team members voted who should be that. And after that, how we govern Project Hydro. So the thing is, usually we ask all the big decisions from the community. And like right now, we are having one vote. The thing is, as Carl told you, that we want to be a multi-chain platform. For that, we had to redeploy the Hydro token contract. So community from the start, from 2018, wanted that Hydro supply should be reduced. So we thought, why not give this option to the community? If they really want that, they should have it. So we are having another, voting at this point. So if they want it, they can have, and this goes for everything. Whenever there's a big decision, we just put it out to the community and they just do it, and we go with that. Actually, we have to.
So as a voting mechanism, how does someone vote in Hydro?
Okay, so at right now, we are using application. But in time, we already built a voting dApp that's in a dApp store. But at this point, because of Ether gas fee, it's really, really high. We can't really use it. That's why we want to go to multi-chain, so that it won't stop us to achieve what we want to achieve. So in time, we want everyone to vote on that voting dApp. With that, we can get every result on, get all the people to interact with the ecosystem.
Yeah, voting's an interesting animal when it comes to on-chain governance, as like, Tusk has on-chain governance as well. And it's interesting because you hear, especially in Western countries where people aren't interested in voting, people in countries where people aren't forced to vote, that they get low voter turnout. And it's interesting because we also see that in a lot of these different chains that have self-governance or on-chain governance, they also seem to have that same problem where people just aren't interested in voting. How do you guys plan to tackle voter apathy when it comes to making these decisions?
Well, voter apathy is a very hard subject to tackle, of course, especially right now with our voting dApp running on the Ethereum mainnet. Then it will be too expensive for people to vote. So the first thing we thought about was to make the whole experience free for our voters, basically, so that they don't have to pay the gas fees that are attached to interacting with the application. So that's one of the things. The other thing is that our growth squad has really been shouting out about this on all of our social media. So they were certainly part of our plan in getting this voting registration out and then having the election. So in 2 phases to ensure that we can get enough voters basically to have a result that is applicable to the whole community.
I think that's a good plan, and I'm happy to hear that you guys are working on it and are honest about it, because one of those things you see out in the blockchain world is that people aren't honest about problems. Like everybody says blockchain solves this, blockchain solves that, but the problem is every time you're dealing with humans, there's problems. And governance is one of those. And even with Tusk, I mean, we see governance issues, and these things have to be addressed. And but I'm glad you guys are at least open about it, and you guys are working on trying to incentivize voter participation or community participation, because we need that in these decentralized, projects. But okay, let's jump in. Tell me about your latest updates. What are you guys working on?
So yeah, apart from all of this election that we got going on now, that we gave the community the option to elect a reduced supply or not. We are actually planning to redeploy the ERC20 contract to gain functionality needed for a multi-chain implementation. So first up in that multi-chain implementation is the Binance Smart Chain, where we are currently undergoing beta tests with our dApp Store and D applications. So in between that, there will be an escrow, sort of a bridge between chains, so that you can swap your ERC20 tokens for basically BEP20 tokens that you can use to interact on the Binance Smart Chain ecosystem. That basically we will redeploy all of the Hydro protocols and all of the Hydro applications to avoid this growing problem that is Ethereum. I mean, the gas fees has been crippling basically all of our developments as of late. So really looking forward to that. After we successfully deployed on the Binance Smart Chain, we will move on to the Polkadot ecosystem, where we will deploy on Moonbeam and Plasm. And the reason we chose the Polkadot network is because of the technical advancements that have been made if you compare it to Ethereum. So for instance, one of the benefits of being on Plasm is that the smart contract creator can be basically paid by the block rewards if people interact with their smart contracts, which will further incentivize people to deploy D applications in our dApp Store. So I think that's we have talked a little bit about how to involve the community more with the developers and developer incentives. And in terms of that, moving to these kinds of layer one solutions does really make sense from our point of view. So Sarah, do you have anything you want to add in this multi-chain? Did I miss anything, perhaps?
No, I think you covered it all. I think you did, yeah.
Awesome.
You can't cover it all in like a minute.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, the main points. I mean, the main points that you wanted to convey, yeah.
I think you make a really good point about Ethereum and fees. One of the reasons Tusk, we created our own blockchain was because of the gas problem in Ethereum 3 years ago. We recognized that the gas fees were a problem and hampered growth. And so I don't understand where Ethereum's future is if they don't solve that.
Well, imagine what happened when Uniswap went live. That basically crippled the whole DeFi ecosystem running on Ethereum. I mean, we can see gas prices as high as $40 to $50 for a smart contract interaction. And if they don't deploy a solution to that gas problem, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, it's decentralized and on some proof of work, but apart from that, there are a lot of other chains with technical benefits that will suit most layer 2 and layer 3 projects for a migration at the moment. So it will be interesting to see what they propose.
Yeah, I used to be a big fan of Ethereum, but it just seems like they can't get things across the finish line. And what I don't really understand that, given the sheer number of developers working in Ethereum, why are they having such a hard time completing projects in any reasonable time frame?
Well, it's a very, very big community of developers, and basically, in order to deploy a hard fork, you need to have consensus in the whole network, or basically 51% of the public nodes needs to update the software in order to deploy updates, if we want to explain it a little bit simple. And I think that's one of the issues that Ethereum is experiencing at the moment. I
And
mean,
moreover, it's in Ethereum, there's always a fight between developers and miners, who are
mhm,
mostly the business people that are running and powering Ethereum.
yeah,
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's
that's
like,
exactly it.
well, I mean, that's exactly the problem with all these proof of work blockchains, right? Is that, what's in the miner's best interest is not what's in the community's best interest. If the, you got to look at these miners that have, especially on even Bitcoin, that have spent, hundreds of millions and billions of dollars on infrastructure that they hope to get a return on that investment. And when you start talking about reducing fees, or eliminating fees or what have you, or capping fees, what ends up happening, you're talking about capping their income and their profit. And then this is one of the problems that I see with proof of work blockchains in general, is that there's a huge conflict of interest between the different stakeholders in those communities, and those aren't easily remedied. And I think, unfortunately, is that you get into these fights where miners are pretty fat and happy making their money, and they don't care if it grows, they don't care if it gets adopted, they care about their fees. And I don't know how you go from that model when the miners are the ones that really are the ones making the decisions. I don't know what the solution is, though. I really don't.
No, I think that puts the problem in perspective that we all can understand, I guess. The conflict between miners and developers will continue as long as they don't figure out how to update all of the public nodes in the network without consensus. And then basically you can take away the whole decentralization thing anyway. So I think it's a hard problem to solve. It's going to require a lot of time, basically, because the community needs to work through all of the issues that miners basically present them with at this point. And I think being an Ethereum miner right now, it's very profitable, especially if you have the latest generation cards, like the new GTX 3080s or 3060 Ti's even. I think they make a pretty buck if they have a nice rig. So I'm kind of not expecting too much to change on that subject, but we'll see. If they present something, I mean, we're still going to have a native ERC20 token because of the ease of use within the blockchain ecosystem. Basically, all exchanges support the ERC20 protocol. It is expensive to transact on that network, yes, but if you limit those transactions to only economical value, I still see some reason to be on Ethereum, because right now it is the biggest smart contract platform. We'll see how that develops, but yeah.
Is Polkadot, and I haven't researched it too much, but is Polkadot compatible with ERC20?
Not Polkadot per se, but the parachains on Polkadot actually have. Maybe you want to talk about that, Ayusha. I see you're unmuting your mic. Sorry.
Yeah, so Polkadot is basically providing a platform, and there are many chains running on Polkadot. So some of the chains are supporting ERC20, and some are very Ethereum-based chains, and they support ERC20 the way Ethereum does. So there won't be much deviation when you migrate from Ethereum to any other parachain running on Polkadot.
So what you're saying is Polkadot could be the Ethereum killer.
Polkadot is bigger than Ethereum because it supports everything that can make Ethereum.
This is interesting, though, is that when it comes to innovation, right, even in blockchain, there's innovation. Whereas the earlier, chains were kind of like, if you look at the auto industry, they're prototypes in a lot of ways. And you can look at those prototypes and learn from their mistakes, and not repeat their mistakes. And we've tried to do that with Tusk as well. And I'm hoping in time, some of the decision we made about how we, designed Tusk before we launched it, was because we tried to improve over what we thought were, mistakes. And I'm not going to be mean about it, but just mistakes that other chains made. And that was the hardest part about launching a blockchain on our own, was trying to figure out how to govern it, how to manage it, how, what features do you include? For example, a lot of people really want us to stake on chain, and we've always resisted doing staking. And people got really upset about that. And one of the reasons we made that decision is because our number one mission with Tusk is to get people to use Tusk for payments. And we thought that if you introduce staking on chain to a blockchain, you now are making it more attractive as an investment project rather than a payments project. And in a similar vein, the same thing comes with cap supply and scarcity. Now you hear that a lot, right? Where everything should be scarce, but though we right now don't have a cap supply with Tusk, we may implement that in the future once we get to a critical mass and reach a certain size. We're certainly open to that. But one of the problems is the minute you artificially impose scarcity, and that's what it is, it's just artificial scarcity. What ends up happening is you now are making a blockchain more attractive as an investment, not as a payments network. And for us, our mission has always been to close that last mile of crypto adoption by getting people to use crypto for buying and selling things. And so we've always resisted some of these things, and a lot of the community that is very investment oriented, and there's nothing wrong with being investment oriented, but that's not what our mission is. We didn't want to create just another stock that people invested in. We wanted to create a payments network that people actually use, that actually solves a problem. And if you don't get people willing to spend your crypto, it doesn't matter how great the technology is, as far as we're concerned, because it's just not adopted. And so we gave a lot of thought to all these different answers and questions around how to build a blockchain that people use. And we did think about these things early on. And it's interesting, how people give you lots of pushback about that. Well, you're just going to keep making more and more. I'm like, no, the community votes on, how much is made and when it's made and the inflation rate and things like that, But, I always say this is like, you need money to run you need money to run money, right? There's overhead involved with operating a currency. And you need to have some built-in funding to do that. And if you think about it, look at government issued key fiat currencies, right? There's a cost to running that paper money. Someone's got to make printing presses. Somebody's got to make, engraving plates, and somebody's got to change out the old bills. Someone's got to buy paper and ink and switch it all out and manage it and move it around. And there's a huge cost to that no one really thinks about or talks about. But how governments pay for currency is through taxation. And so, and none of those fiat currencies are actually self-sufficient. But cryptocurrencies don't really have the ability to tax people against their will. So inflation in a controlled manner is one of the ways that you can do self-funding. Until some time that transactions, transaction fees actually get high enough through on-chain sales, essentially, to take over that. So one of the things that we've looked at with Tusk going forward is that we would love to cap our inflation rate, or cap our total supply at such time that people have already adopted it, and there's enough transaction fees now coming into the network that can pay for all the things that need to be paid for developers and block producers and things like that. But I think it's interesting that when you look at some of these legacy chains like Ethereum and even Bitcoin, is that none of those things were thought about, long term, and it's going to be a problem going forward. And it's interesting because some of them made mistakes, because if you wanted, Bitcoin to be used for money, they didn't succeed at that, at least yet, right? And they've succeeded at creating an investment, but it's not being used as money, because why would you spend Bitcoin when it can go up 20% in a week, right? There's my tangent.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. we also thought in those terms in the project, basically how to incentivize people to develop the applications for our App Store. I mean, they will have to pay for the gas fees and the deployment themselves, but if you can have payments at a protocol level to these developers, say for instance, like you do on the Parachain Plasm, where they get a portion of the block reward each time their smart contract is used, then they have basically an automatic salary. And if their smart contract is popular, then those block rewards will increase. So I think that is probably the same way you're approaching the problem, something that we also want to have at the protocol level within Hydro, to basically pay all of the decentralized developers that are building stuff on top of our protocols. And I think a multi-chain switch will enable us to do that in so many nuances of ways, I would say, because I think the Binance Smart Chain also has these kinds of incentives for developers that make smart contracts on top of their layer 1 and our layer 2 solution. And I would agree with you, actually. I think Bitcoin and Ethereum were ultimately when they began experiments, and a lot of these aspects that are becoming more and more transparent to us now, 10 years later, basically in the case of Bitcoin, will probably force some kind of new developments in governance for future more modern blockchains, like we're seeing now with Polkadot, which is basically, I would say, the latest generation of blockchain that we currently have with this parachains, which is why we want to leverage that, of course, as well. So hopefully we will see more of these developments, because they really affect developers that are basically building all of these cool things for normal people to use. Right now, I think the gas fees are basically what's keeping it from getting spread to wider use. Like, if you look at different types, I know the Tusk blockchains shares a lot of similarities with Hive, for instance. And Hive runs a couple of really elaborate blockchain games that require like thousands of interactions to play per player each day. And they can support that infrastructure and make that game run pretty smooth. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but I think we will see. I think we will see a lot of these solutions become more and more mainstream, because I mean, at the moment, sure, decentralization is awesome, but paying for that decentralization might not be viable when this scales even 20 or 30 years into the future. I mean, if Ethereum doesn't present the gas fee/gas limit issue solution to the problem that we're currently experiencing, it will only grow, and we will see transactions costing upwards of several $100s, especially if the dollar devalues against cryptocurrencies, it continues to devalue against cryptocurrencies.
Well, I think there was a lot of opportunity for Ethereum to be usurped by, say, EOS. But if you go and look at EOS, they never did anything. They raised $4 billion and just invested in it mostly in Bitcoin.
Yeah, they had a very chaotic launch with block producers and the exchanges basically hijacking EOS at some point.
But the technology, and there's some other smart contracts platforms that could, because of the way the fee structures were, because they're DPoS or proof of stake kind of blockchains, they already had some of the scalability and the fee problems kind of solved that Ethereum hadn't. And I believe if those chains would have really worked it, and I mean it, I think they didn't work it. I think their teams failed them in many respects, and it's not a surprise to me that, you know, you look at Dan Larimer just left, you know, EOS randomly, and he's got this habit of starting projects and leaving before, you know, he cashed out. He was rich before EOS and got really rich after EOS. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of these guys have built some amazing technologies, but they didn't really see them to the end. And I do believe EOS had the opportunity, because I mean, you have billions of dollars in the bank, literally billions of dollars in the bank. You can hire any developer to do anything you want. You can incentivize, you can market to industries, you could hire sales teams. There's no reason why they didn't just stomp on every other blockchain out there. And they got the blessing from the government, paid their fine, so there, you know, there was not that regulatory risk over their heads. I believe EOS dropped some major balls and missed a lot of opportunities that could have solved a lot of these scaling issues inherent in, say, Ethereum. And I'm not anti-Ethereum. I was a huge investor in Ethereum for a long time. And so, but there's just some really systemic problems with that blockchain that I think are going to hold it up. And I think ultimately that's an opportunity for another blockchain to come in and stomp them. I think that opportunity is still there. But you gotta get, but whoever that project is has to get out there and market their solution to developers and industry and say, hey, look, we can do what Ethereum can't do. We're doing what EOS didn't do. Come work with us. And whoever does that's going to be successful. And I believe will be very valuable in the future. But, you know, and I know it sounds like I'm bagging on some of these projects, but you can't tell me that. I mean, if you think of a crypto project like, you know, EOS or Block One, and if I said, I'm going to give you $4 billion in your ICO, how you cannot be successful with that. You can hire, I mean, that's bigger than the market cap of many giant companies. And
Yeah,
if you, it makes no sense to me what they're doing. No sense.
mean,
if they care about.
Definitely, we didn't have any ICO or anything like that where we raised $4 billion. So, I mean, to have that capital and still fail on developing, I mean, I'm speechless, to be honest. I think the launch of EOS was quite chaotic. I was following it when it actually happened. And the whole system that they devised with the distribution and everything that of RAM, yeah. To
we
me,
did a better swap than they did when we launched our blockchain, because we looked at how to do swaps, like from a token to a new blockchain, and we did a pretty elegant system, we thought. And we looked at some of how these other projects did their swaps, and they were pretty bad. It's like, and I'm here to bag on other products, right? I mean, we're still trying to, you know, get our footing as well with Tusk, but so the multi-chain project, tell me a little more about it. What is your ultimate goal with this? What do you want to be able to do with your multi-chain, you know, functionality?
For one, we would like to be able to subsidize our network to basically, our ecosystem to basically make it gas free, which is basically something that would make it very easy to interact with if you're a regular person that doesn't know anything about crypto or how to acquire Plasm to transact on the Plasm network, for instance. So the ultimate goal of the multi-chain project is to make crypto more accessible and basically to cut all of these fees away, to abstract them away, to make this App Store that we're building more like a normal app store where you're registering, choosing a username and a password that is stored in an extension like MetaMask, for instance, and then have your decentralized Snowflake ID running so you can interact with all of these applications. And the main thing with the multi-chain switch is to remove or abstract away this layer of gas fees that has been like detrimental to this vision of having a blockchain-based App Store. So I would say that that is like one of our main priorities, because we want to make our, oh, sorry, Saro.
It's okay, it's okay. I just wanted to explain on that. So what I think personally, that the main issue why blockchain or cryptocurrency can't go as a payment because of the gas fee. It's for like, let's say I'm paying you $100 and you will only receive like 99 point something. if we go big with this, it's still the same. And especially with the gas fee now, you will receive much less, of course. So we want to be multi-chain to, just take out that issue, the fees issue, especially for a remittance app. We want to do remittance and we want to be a cross-border payment solution. You could say even the first one, because until now, no one is able to solve that issue with the cryptocurrencies, because it's the same issue. If you will send someone $100 because of the fluctuation and volatility, you might only receive like $80. And on top of that, the gas issue, and we want to eliminate some of the issues that cryptocurrency have. And to take one step for it, it's a multi-chain.
So that kind of leads to the ability to really create a cross-chain DEX, which is kind of like this whole holy grail, right? Of being able to transact off and outside of centralized exchanges, which have a lot of risk associated with them. So what is the solution to that volatility? How do you make that happen on a cross-chain DEX? What's the magic sauce? What's the secret sauce?
On a cross-chain DEX, well, we haven't figured that out as of yet, but this bridge that we are architecting at the moment will basically use Ethereum, the total supply of Ethereum. Well, Kitty comes here as well. As the central point of the token repository. And if you want to swap tokens like ERC20 for BEP20 tokens, you will have to deposit those ERC20 tokens into a BEP20 smart contract, basically. That will pay you out BEP20 tokens in order to stabilize the token repository as a whole, so that you don't have basically tokens being created out of nothing when you send ERC20 tokens to the Binance network to use them on top of the Binance Smart Chain, for instance. Or if you want to basically interact for free on the Polkadot network. So yeah, I think that's the main issue for us to solve. And I also think that is the ground pillar to building this cross-chain DEX that we have been discussing for quite some time as well in-house. But I think we need to progress on this plan first in order to gain some more experience and do more research before you can start to tackle a true cross-chain DEX. Because if we're going to have a true cross-chain DEX, then we also need to consider a lot of the protocols that we layer ones that we aren't using, like say for instance CryptoNote, like the whole Monero ecosystem would have to be implemented in a true cross-chain DEX. And at the moment, I think public blockchains are kind of clashing a little bit with the privacy chains. So we'll see how that develops, but I think what we are architecting at the moment with this bridge / escrow will be like the ground base or the foundation for these kinds of cross-chain DEXs in the future. I think it's going to require a lot of research and development before it's perfected, so that you can effectively use it on a global scale, but we are certainly getting there. I think there are projects working on this apart from us that are also quite far gone in the crypto node sphere. I know the Monero developers are working on CryptoNote DEX. So if all of these building stones start coming together, we might see a more comprehensive blockchain ecosystem as a whole, where we don't really need centralized exchanges at all. Basically, everything will happen through atomic swaps instead, or similar to atomic swaps, not atomic swaps per se.
Yeah, I think we're going to get there, and I think it's going to have to be an escrow feature, like you're building. To make that happen. And I think the other part is the trusted oracle. I mean, there's going to be a big part of that as well. Oracles are a problem. And so if you can figure out, I'm guessing, and I'm not a developer, right? So I'm just kind of thinking how I would do it, but it seems like you'd have to have some kind of multi-oracle consensus on what the given price is at a certain time, and then have some kind of time period where the transaction must be consummated in, based on what that price is. You probably have to pad or almost preload a little extra of deposits, a little larger than what you want to transact, so you can cover some of that volatility. And then there probably has to be some kind of automatic refund feature built into that trade, all done like instantaneously. Now, I don't know how that would happen. I don't know how to do all that, but this seems like it's going to have to be something along those lines. But it sounds like you guys are building that initial foundation to kind of make that happen. And you guys, I heard you guys are also building this multi-coin wallet function. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. We want to have this running in our multi-coin wallet. So our wallet currently will use Chainlink Oracle to do a lot of this functionality, but eventually we would like to build out that with our own Oracle that can do all of these swapping functionalities, basically. So initially, the actual escrow that we will use to swap ERC20 tokens for BEP20 tokens will probably be built straight in to the Agar mobile wallet. And you will also be given the option to add coins like any other multi-coin wallet without using all of this smart contract functionality. So say, for instance, in Tusk's case, which is basically first up for integration, you would be able to use the Tusk wallet without interacting or like creating a Snowflake ID, basically interacting with the Ethereum network at the moment, so that it can be used as a standalone wallet for the Tusk network as well. And going forward, we would like to implement more coins and basically tokens in our wallet. We will have the functionality of adding like custom tokens, of course, but we're looking into adding BEP20 tokens as well, because I think that would be quite interesting to expand upon this concept of smart contract platform tokens, because basically all of them have a native token or a native token functionality, basically that you can deploy tokens in their network. And if we support, say, for instance, Polkadot in the wallet, then we should be able to support all of the native tokens for Polkadot as well, because it should be quite easy to implement with the contract address, decimals, so forth, add your token. So I think we will have to think of the mobile wallet as a sort of a gateway between all of these different chains. But at the same time, it should be able to use as a robust, standard, minimal functional wallet as well for those that don't want to, at the moment, then pay a lot of Ethereum fees to generate the Snowflake ID to interact with all of these extra features. Hope that answers some of your questions.
Kind of.
Kind of. Does it raise more questions, perhaps?
Probably. My mind is always racing, because I know enough about technology to be dangerous and just come up with like concepts, but I'm not a developer. So I like to throw things out there and then people cringe because they're like, oh, that'll take 3 years to do it. I'm like, no, you can do it in 3 months. Come on. I know you can. But so the multi-coin wallet. So what would you say is your next big, what's going to be the next big thing on your roadmap? What are you guys working towards?
Well, I mean, it is all of this multi-chain implementation. It will be like a 5-phased plan because we also want to launch on more blockchains. It's not only Binance Smart Chain and the Polkadot ecosystem that we're getting into. Ultimately, I think we would like to have this cross-chain, multi-chain DEX that works with basically all blockchains, but I think that is a bit away in the future. But we will update our roadmap when we redeploy the ERC20 contract. There will also be a slight makeover maybe you wanna fill us in a little bit about that, Saurabh?
Yeah, so we are updating a lot of things as we were due for redesigning of the platform, and that's why we are doing. Actually, it was supposed to happen back in Q4 of 2020, but we pushed it a bit because it just we were talking with so many people, and this multi-chain idea came up, and we thought, why not just explore this? And now we are here, and we are just about to go for it. Binance integration, like Carl told you, it's almost done, and we already, I think, from tomorrow we'll start the beta testing with the community, some community testers. So yeah, we are gonna do a lot of redesigning. You could see like lots of color schemes changes, and we are still looking for logo. I don't want to commit anything if logo will be changed or not, but we are looking into it though. And on the product side, I would say after this multi-chain, the main thing which will come will be remittance app, which will be really, really good. And I would say, in my opinion, will be really innovative because until now, no one is able to find how to send crypto to your bank account, which can be directly swapped into your own currency. So I think, in my opinion, it will be really, really good.
Banks as exchanges sound very interesting, don't they?
It does.
Gentlemen,
It does.
Gentlemen, I do appreciate your time today. So, for the listeners that are interested, where can people find out more about your updates and your project in general?
Best way is to check out our website, projecthydro.org. You can find links to all of our social media, our Medium blog, Telegram groups, etc. Right there. You can also follow us on Twitter. I think it's at Hydro Blockchain at the moment, right, Saurabh?
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
come say hi on a Telegram channel. We're always there.
I hear you. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We'll get this posted out right away, and I'll tag you guys, and I look forward to hearing more about what you're doing in the future.
Awesome.
Thanks
so much for having me.
us here.
Great. This is Rob
It's been
McNeely.
great.
Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcneely.com and smash that like button on all your podcatchers and on Library and YouTube. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to the Rob McNeely program. Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcneely.com and subscribe to our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, and on the Google Play Store.